What's up? It's the 2022 NFL preview episode on the Go Long podcast. Tyler Dunn here with Jim Monis. Jim, what's happening on your end this fine Friday afternoon?
It's the best. We're underway. Finally, we got the game under our belts. I'm so pumped right now. Because I like college football. I don't love it. I like gambling on it a little bit to watch it. Games are just that North Carolina App State game last week is like why college football to me is whatever. But I just want to watch. The NFL is just so much. I don't know. That last night got me ready to watch more of it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend, and it leads to predictions, right, for the season.
No doubt. I mean, we've kind of we put it out there. If everybody's reading Go Long, we have our predictions out there. It's on the site. But we thought we'd kind of go in a little deeper, get a little weird, get a little crazy, throw some takes inside the oven, crank it to 500 degrees and see what happens. Usually we mock that stuff, but crazy stuff does happen every year. And nobody really knows what's coming, when it's coming. So we're going to try to investigate a little bit here.
You just summed it up perfectly by saying nobody knows. And it's the people that take it so seriously and can't have a little fun with it and understand, you can't predict this stuff. We have no clue. But let's have some fun with it. See if this stuff could happen.
No doubt. And you went out on a limb on a few things. So I cannot wait to hear.
I have some reasons behind it.
Yeah. And next week we're going to be at Fatty Beer Company, yes. Orchard Park, New York. We'll have the date and the time in the post. Monday a.m. So every Monday a.m., the morning after column, wrapping up the games. I'll stick it in there for our subscribers. We'll let you know what day, what time we'll be at Fatty. So come on out, have a beer with us. Cannot wait for our new host. It's going to be a lot of fun. Until then, Jim, so we hit on the Bills last night and right in the heat of the moment. I mean, the game was still finishing up. Are any other thoughts? You slept on it. Anything else come to mind?
I think the only thing maybe, because it's so hard to, find anything, but I guess you can talk about the turnovers. We touched on it, but I just didn't feel like they were sloppy turnovers. I didn't think there were anything to worry about. And I think the other thing I didn't talk about, that running back, we may have talked about a little bit, but Cook, he's going to need to raise his game. Because those two running backs,
Singletary and Moss, they're not just going to give up their touches
Cook
without a fight.
He looked a little upright running, a little tentative, fumble. I'm not right now. I'm just saying that's that rookie. People have no idea the transition. I mean, this guy was it's not like he didn't play at a big time college and being around big crowds or anything like that. It's just, there's something about that first game. And you see the way these are grown men fighting for their jobs when you see Singletary and Moss running the football.
And they're not idiots. I think Singletary and Moss know that the Bills at every opportunity have tried to find their replacement.
I mean, look where
they've gotten into it. J.D. McKissick, Chase Edmonds, they were looking for a dual threat.
No doubt.
Well, that's 2 years. Travis Etienne.
No doubt.
They wanted him badly in that draft and didn't get him. So, I think that there's a sense of pride. Zach Moss was playing on one good ankle last year. Devin Singletary's, he took a huge jump last year, but he wasn't just getting the ball a heck of a lot until the end of the year, and then he proved his worth. So that's a whole other element to this team. When you can run the ball against nickel and dime that they're going to be facing.
And you got to remember, this is the offensive line coach, Aaron Cromer. We talked about him as well. This is what he's used to, playing on a high-powered offense in New Orleans. How do you mix in the running game? Because we did it with Coach Cromer. So I'm telling you, he plays a big part in knowing how to mix in this running game. It's such an important hire. Such an important hire.
We might be seeing all of that draft capital starting to pay off on the defensive line too. I mean, the way they can just cycle different players through: AJ Epinesa, Boogie Basham, Gregory Rousseau, Tim Settle, Jordan Phillips. And oh, by the way, Von Miller, he was pretty good last night too. I mean,
I can't even talk about it anymore. I know
if they can cave the pocket consistently, that's a game changer, because they weren't able to do it against the best of the best the last 2 years. All right, that's enough Bills though. You've heard
Yeah, we
us
got to get
blab
on.
on and on. But each under normal weekends we'll have the big episode Monday morning wrapping up the NFL, all the games, and then like a separate 20-25 minute segment on the Bills. So you'll get that nice little package each Monday morning. But right now, Jim, all right. Do you want to start with our Super Bowl teams, or do you want to start with
Let's hit. Yeah, we should do like some of
craziness?
the heavy hitters, maybe like division stuff. That's whatever, but or maybe not because I threw some zingers in those division winners. But
Let's see. I gotta remember. So this is what Jim has for his division winners: AFC East Bills, AFC North Ravens, AFC South your Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll touch on that. AFC West the LA Chargers, NFC East the New York Giants taking the NFC East. Believe it or not, folks. The NFC North Packers, NFC South Panthers, NFC West 49ers. So yeah, I mean, we were going to start with the Super Bowl winners. Let's just jump right into the crazy stuff because I think a lot of folks, I don't know anybody else who's predicting Jags, Giants, Panthers to take the division.
No, and listen, I mean, I'm not saying once again, I'm saying, can it happen? Why not? Study the division a little bit. That's how I'm looking at it. That Jacksonville division, you can't tell me that's not up for grabs. Would you agree?
Totally agree.
Now look at let's look at the quarterbacks in that division. I mean, interesting, right? I mean, if Trevor Lawrence takes a step under a proven head coach, right? Whatever we want to think about Doug Peterson, right or wrong, we finally have a proven head coach, not that Urban Meyer garbage. This is Doug Peterson with a young, talented quarterback. That team isn't that bad on talent. You've spent time around that team. They're not that bad on talent. They have some really good players on defense.
Well, hell, when you spend $300 million, it's gonna mean something, right? It's gonna lead to something good. They did the work in free agency.
I'm just trying to pay. I'm just trying to, but yeah.
I'm with you. Like it's not that far fetched of a comparison. I don't know if they're gonna be in the Super Bowl, but they did try to do exactly what Cincinnati did. I mean, Cincinnati went out and signed Trey Hendrickson, signed Mike Hilton. Right? They were aggressive in free agency. And they had the quarterback. Jacksonville was aggressive in free agency, and we think they have the quarterback. And, was it all on Lawrence, all on Meyer? Probably a mixture of both last season for the ugliness, but we saw it at Clemson. He does have star potential, and you're right. I was in Jacksonville last week, spent a little time with the coaching staff, with some players. We'll have all sorts of stuff in the coming days, but you look around that locker room and there are some names, there are some vets, and there's a lot of young promising players too. And they're confident. I think it helps when you do have like a player who's been on a winning team who can, we always come back to that culture lately. They can at least say the right thing in the right moment and carry an air about them day to day that they didn't have last year. Like a Christian Kirk,
I like it. I'm telling you, I like what they did. I just don't think it's far-fetched. I don't think it's a crazy thing to say. I feel like the Colts are kind of who'd you take?
I like the Colts. I mean, the defense is loaded. I'm not a big Matt Ryan,
Yeah, I agree. You know what you're
Jonathan Taylor's the best back in the league. They've got a good line.
It's hard to argue that.
What was the last game we saw in the division?
I can't sit there. Right. I'm not going to sit there and say like, I mean, the Colts. Once again, is Matt Ryan, can Matt Ryan get it done? Do they have enough weapons on the outside to to really put up points if they need to?
Hey, the last game we saw was Jacksonville beating the snot out of Indianapolis, and they've got what you need where you need it. Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Trayvon Walker. Yeah. I know we questioned that pick. A lot of people did because the production. Just walking around him in that locker room, there aren't many human beings like him on the planet. This dude is yoked, tall, strong. I mean, Danielle Hunter's a pretty big dude. We talked to Minnesota. Walker is You just take one look at him and you can see, okay, that's why you take a gamble on him over Aiden Hutchinson. I think Hutchinson is the best player in the draft, but you get it. You get the risk reward factor there with him, because if you can get both of those guys screaming after the quarterback, it's going to open up so much.
It's everything.
All right, you've got the Packers over the Bills in the Super Bowl. You know,
it's not crazy.
Pandering to our base. I like it. That's smart.
It's a boring pick, and you know, it's a boring pick. I am just not impressed with the NFC right now at all. If Aaron Rodgers can't get this done, I'm just not impressed with the NFC.
You know, the road to the Super Bowl went through Lambeau Field the last 2 years. They couldn't get it done.
We talked about it. I mean, I
don't
have an answer.
To you? Right, but what to you? What changed that gives you confidence?
That he came back.
Mm-hmm.
That he came back. He wouldn't do this. This isn't a sport you do just, hey, I can get one more year or whatever. You do this for a reason. If you're him, he wants to play. He wants to win. He there's something in him that wants to play. So I like that. I'll take one of the most talented quarterbacks that still wants to play with a team who I do think they have talent. I mean,
yeah, I mean, they put the assets into the defense. We've hit on all those themes here. I'm with you. I think they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I've got them losing to Cincinnati.
But for you, that's I want to talk about your Cincinnati pick, but for you, was that hard for you to put Green Bay in the Super Bowl? As far as like, not hard, but do you see like who do you think challenges them? I guess would be is it Minnesota? Because I'm not going to lie, Tyler, this week, you kind of talked me. I'm taking Minnesota Sunday against Green Bay. So even though I have them going to the Super Bowl, hey, a game's a game.
I'm with you. I think the Vikings win this game, but I think the Packers win the NFC. And that you may think, what the hell? Well, let's remember last year, the New Orleans Saints pounded Green Bay, but 38-3, and they whipped themselves into shape pretty quickly. It's a marathon. I just think it's going to take time for Sammy Watkins. You know, Alan Lazard's hobbled. I think Romeo Dobbs is going to end up being the go-to guy, you know, by October.
Yeah.
Christian Watson's a little banged up. Robert Tunnion's working his way back from that season-ending knee injury. There's a lot of moving parts in the passing game, and training camp was up and down. So I just think it's going to take an adjustment there. And Minnesota is going to be jacked for this game. And let's talk about this matchup a little bit, because, you know, we created somewhat of a stir, right? You may have heard Zadarius Smith had a few things to say about his former team. We've got the story up online. Spent some time out there with the Vikes, Jim, and while I was there, chatted with Zadarius. Just curious, like everybody else, like what happened last year? You know, why Minnesota? Are you eager to face your former team? And didn't take much poking and prodding. He was willing and eager and jumping the gun to discuss this matchup. You know, obviously there's the whole Baltimore thing in there. I wish we could have delved down that road in our conversation. He actually had to get to a meeting, so we try to maximize our time best we could. Was going to go to the Ravens, had an agreement, didn't work out. Boom, he's a Viking. And he said the reason he's in Minnesota is to play Green Bay twice a year, that he hurt his back lifting weights, got into training camp, didn't feel right. On an off day, flew to LA, had surgery done by the same doctor who did Rob Gronkowski's back, Jason Pierre-Paul's back. You know, early in their careers, made them good as new. But they did basically, he had a bulge in his back and they kind of shaved it down a little bit. Hey, he played. Like, as he said, I put my effing back on the line. He played in the playoffs. Like, he was there for the games that matter with this back issue. And yeah, we're pretty open and transparent. You know, I'm being pro player in terms of these are the dudes out there, you know, with the brains jiggling around in a skull, with knees beat to hell, with bodies that are just playing a game. Hey, as your old cohort Doug Whaley said once in a radio interview, he was 100% correct. The human body was not, you know, built and made to play this game that we all love. And I think we all understand that. We all get it. But these are the guys out there risking everything. So, hey, if he wants to open up and if he wants to talk about what he went through physically, mentally, you know, he had the 2 banger years when he got there, 19 and 20, he had 65 and a half pressures per Bob McGinn, his count in 19, 13 and a half sacks. He's an all-pro the next year. He did a lot of good. I mean, I get it. He's got deficiencies against the run. Green Bay's going to try to take advantage of that with Jones and Dillon because he's pretty excited. You know, he'll be flying upfield. But he did give them exactly what they needed. And then all of this happened. And yeah, he said it wasn't so much restructuring his contract. He said it wasn't so much not being named a captain, even though he put out some cryptic tweets. It was how the team treated him. So his comments, you know, we had him online, and lo and behold, Packer fans were unhappy to say the least. I heard from some familiar faces that crept back onto the timeline, which is always nice to see. But hey, we're just talking to a player who has a story to share, and that wasn't the entire story. I mean, there's a lot of Minnesota in there on what he's trying to build with Daniil Hunter, Harrison Phillips. They want to create Purple People Eaters 2.0. He's a confident guy, and he had a lot to say. And I think that we need more honesty. And I commend players for sharing their stories behind the scenes, because this isn't abnormal. I think there's a lot of players who feel pressure to play when they don't think they're ready to play. You've seen it in your 17 years, I'm sure. And hey, look, only Zadarius Smith knows Zadarius Smith's body. So for people to tell him, no, they're paying you that much money, go put your body on the line. No, I mean, get the hell out of here with that. Like this is he's allowed to make his decisions with his body. And it is just funny to hear people basically call him a liar. Matt LaFleur was asked about it, and he said, hey, our interpretation in so many words was different than what Zadarius said. Aaron Rodgers was asked about it. It's going to be fun Sunday, Jim. It's going to be fun. I think that when he gets announced out of that tunnel at Minnesota, emotions will be flying both directions.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that game.
But your take on just what players go through.
You're right. They have every right to talk about what they go through. Think of the pressure they have for their careers, not only performing at the highest level, but health is so key. And who takes care of them? They have to trust somebody else is making the right decision for them a lot of times, you know, on medical decisions, surgeries. And that's frightening to think, you know, are you giving me the right advice or not? And if you feel like you're not getting the right advice and they're not behind you, and that's to feel not supported after what you're going through, you know, to play for that team, that cuts deep. That cuts deep.
It's strange in this case because for my time on the beat, I remember the Packers team physician, Dr. McKenzie, being very conservative. I mean, I think when you look at the spectrum of, you know, doctors who are trying to look out for their players, Green Bay's track record is pretty good. That being said, by and large, across the NFL, this is the kind of stuff you hear all the time. Like, I mean, to the extent you got Tyrod Taylor getting stabbed in the lung. I mean, he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Chargers. I mean, that's what started Justin Herbert's career, and that stuff happens all the time. The horror stories that you hear in Minnesota, you know, they cleaned house in terms of the training department and really how they take care of players' bodies underneath Kevin O'Connell. Let's just say it's a little different under Kevin O'Connell than it was Mike Zimmer. That maybe what was written barely scratched the surface on everything we're talking about here with that team.
I'm telling you, Tyler, you wouldn't believe the discrepancy, like leading up to a draft, certain players. When I just talk Miles Jack, there was different opinions on him medically by team. Like, think about how that sways. One team could say, yep, he's good to go. Another team could say, no, we have concerns. He's off the board. You know, it can be that crazy, and they can't come to an agreement. Just like drafting players is in a sense, they can have all the info, and it still is sometimes a decision. You know, like not a 100% scientific decision. I mean, so they have discrepancies.
You also have to factor in what we see in retired players today.
Oh,
look around.
That in quality of life.
Quality of life. You see some players that, you know, not distant memory. I mean, not distant memory, not from the 60s and the 70s. And I'm talking 90s. I'm talking 2000s.
Yeah.
I've talked to some of them, it's not just physical, it's the mental. So yeah, I mean, it's weird. We're so into the blood and the guts of the sport. And, I consider myself an old soul and I love, I love all of that football's about. But man, I mean, when it comes down to players making decisions about their bodies and when they want to share,
no doubt,
it was interesting. We'll leave it at that.
Agreed.
And this is what we love about sports, man. That rivalry, Green Bay, Minnesota. It could be a fight to the finish in that division. I think Minnesota, if they have, we can say this about a lot of teams, but if they do have a few injuries to those core pieces, I think they're in trouble. Look, they basically, zapped Rick Spielman's entire 2021 draft. 7 of those guys that they just drafted a year ago are cut. So, but they did keep Cousins, Cook, Jefferson, Thielen, Kendricks, Harris. They have a core there.
That's a strong core. Those guys have been through a lot.
Danielle Hunter, yeah. But if you have a few injuries, I'm not sure what's behind them. I think Green Bay's depth is better. I think Green Bay's built for the playoffs. I think between their depth, their new style of play, building from the inside out, I'd still take Green Bay, late in the season. I'd take Minnesota at the start of the season.
I like it. I hope you're right. I hope you're right Sunday afternoon.
All right, we're going to get to the crazy, ridiculous, outlandish predictions on the season. But anything else? Let's just hit on our Super Bowl picks quick. Anything else, Bills, Packers, you want to share?
Nah. Going with complete teams, coaches, quarterbacks, like it all.
Cincinnati. I love those
Bengals. This is why, I like this pick by you because I think it's so hard to get back. And you must really feel like they're built to get back. That's a hell of that's really hard to do.
I think they're young enough and blissfully ignorant enough to not compute the concept of it is really hard to get back to. Like nobody saw last year coming. Like psychologically, when you don't know what you don't know. Jamar Chase is 22, 23. Joe Burrow's 24, 25. So yeah. They're so young. And okay, you look at the depth chart, you look at the roster. That secondary, I can't say it enough. I mean, what they did to Patrick Mahomes 1 week after Mahomes just torched Buffalo in the fourth quarter and overtime. It was the exact opposite. I think secondary, they know how to read routes and coverages and they'll hit you. Chidobe Awuzie, Von Bell, Eli Apple, Mike Hilton, Jesse Bates is now back. He missed training camp, but Dax Hill, who they drafted in the first round, I mean, they're loaded. And they get enough pressure up front with Hubbard, Hendrickson. So I think they have all the pieces defensively in an AFC where, I mean, my God, all these quarterbacks, all these weapons. I think we're all expecting these crazy shootouts week in and week out, but they prove that they can beat the hell out of you. They can get stops, not just get stops. They can turn the ball over. So I love that. And then, I mean, Burrow and Jamar Chase and that connection alone to do what they did in year one, I know they played together in college, but the throw we've talked about against San Francisco where Joe Burrow is just literally throwing it to the corner end zone as Jamar Chase is running the opposite direction because he knows Chase is going to plant his foot and then go the other direction to the corner.
Yeah.
And you're doing that in year one. You're reading the field like Joe Burrow does in year one. That's going to reach a Rodgers, Devontae Adams, connection where you're seeing the same thing out there. And T. Higgins is a 1,000-yard receiver. And Tyler Boyd's as good of a slot man as you're going to find. And Joe Mixon's a top 5 back, you could argue.
Love Joe
and an
Mixon.
Offensive line that was really bad last year was completely rebuilt. So I know. I mean, the only reason to not pick the Bengals is if you think it's just too hard to get back. I think if you strip that away, I mean, I love this team. And I love the Bills too. I think that's going to be a hell of an AFC championship game.
I mean, let's just look at the AFC. We've talked about it, but you can make a case for so many teams. It's unbelievable. all because of the quarterback play. That's where I see the Colts falling short. Like, how can the Colts compete with these guys? And I'm not saying they can't, because but how do you beat these teams? You know?
Yeah, I mean, Unique Ngakoue, DeForest Buckner, Shaquille Leonard, Stephon Gilmore, Kenny Moore. You can make a case for their defense against anybody.
Anybody, right?
And Jonathan Taylor, like, they want to play a very distinct way on offense.
Agree again.
But yeah, Matt Ryan's 36, 37.
I mean, he can't. I just don't know how he could hang with those guys if it gets to that. But you're right. I mean, they are built to run the ball, play defense, keeps you in every game.
I almost kind of like Pittsburgh a little bit more than Indy in the playoffs, just because, look at their top three receivers: Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens is a monster. Trubisky's a huge unknown, but I kind of like those receivers more than what Indy has going on. But let's get into the crazy predictions, because I know you've got them warmed up. Start at the top, something nobody sees coming. You guarantee, put your life savings on what Jim Monos is about to tell you, because it's guaranteed to happen.
Jimmy Garoppolo leads the 49ers to the AFC Championship game.
Wow. You need to elaborate, because, I've got Trey Lance on a fantasy team, and
I think, if Trey Lance
Red Rockets doesn't like hearing that.
I'm not here's the crazy thing. It's amazing to me they couldn't move on from him. It's amazing. It's the most awkward, strange situation that the only thing that makes sense to me. I know the way that they didn't want to lose. They had to keep him based on the contract, whatever, and they redid it. But
those are birds for people listening. I'm doing the podcast outside, and we've got some loud birds overhead. So sorry about that.
No, I'm just saying, it's like, how do they must want to see something more from Trey Lance to not somehow find a way to make that happen. I just can't figure it out. I can't figure it out how he's still on the team. And we always have a saying in the NFL, if he's on the team and he's number 2, whatever position, he's going to be on the field at some point.
Because the veterans in that locker room know that this is somebody that took them to a Super Bowl, that took them to an NFC Championship game.
If it gets ugly, if there's something not right early, boom, here's our cushion right here.
And we talk often about how to support your young quarterback. This doesn't strike me as a move ripe with support.
No, it's strange, I think. But anyway, that's one I'm just throwing out there. So
I can see it, and it's puzzling. It's baffling. I mean,
all of it. No, it's
from the raw tools, and this is where the Trey Lance pick was interesting, because he does have like a Josh Allen light skill set, where big, strong, unbelievably raw, but you can coach this up, you can work with it. But rather than the Josh Allen run, just playing him. The Bills were okay losing. I mean, they went 6-10. They were gutting the roster. They were thinking about the future. But look at the receivers, when that season. I mean, that was when Isaiah McKenzie first came over, and you've got Deontay Thompson and Zay Jones and whatever Kelvin Benjamin was, and like they weren't trying to win a Super Bowl. I mean, the 49ers are trying to win a Super Bowl. They took a project when they're trying to win a Super Bowl. So philosophically, it was odd. But because it's like, I mean, for these guys to get better, they need to play. They just need to play. Like, I get it. They tried to go the Patrick Mahomes route and make, I don't know. No, who knows what's better and what's worse. I feel like you just get better playing games, and he didn't do a lot of that last year, and now they're hesitant to do it this year. He's the starter, so they'll see, but it's like they want to just keep Jimmy Garoppolo on ice in case things go bad. But aren't you potentially, nudging things to go bad with that threat? I mean, with somebody literally over his shoulder, breathing over his shoulder every day at practice. I get it's a big boy league. Get your big boy pants on. If you can't handle it, tough. But it just, Let's see how it goes. Maybe Trey Lance is so damn good that none of this matters.
You're right.
Could be the case.
It could go that way. We're trying to make, good topic.
All right. That's a good one.
And I do love the fact that they're playing Justin Fields' first game.
Yes.
Because once again, man, look at that team.
Yeah.
Like offensively. I don't know.
Rough.
We'll see. Anyway.
Another team that maybe isn't taking the necessary steps around their quarterback. I know we've got some Bears fans that are listening.
I like Fields, so I'm hoping.
All right, hit us. Let me just pull it up here. There was a comment. Where is he? That's right. Glenn Stitley got on my case for saying the Bears were going to be the worst team. So sorry, Glenn. And I apologize again if I mispronounced your last name. You're an OG subscriber here. So, hey, well,
you had to ruin their season before it even started.
Let's hear your next one, Jim.
So we're going to stick with some quarterback drama. How about Minshew replaces Hurts?
Ooh, I like that one.
Just
does he win? He wins too? Do you have him win No, you got the Giants winning the division. So, maybe that's why.
Okay, we'll get to that. But here's my thing with this. I just feel like there's a lot of pressure. They feel like they can win right now. Obviously, they're going to give Hurts every opportunity. They've kind of invested in him. But the way they're built, with that receiving core they have, and that running game they have, and a potentially good defense, it'd be hard. You don't want the passing game can't be the problem. Hurts, if that makes sense. If the passing game is the problem, then Minshew, I think, gets at least a look. Now, obviously, when I say it has to be something. It could be this week against Detroit.
Yeah.
Before the season, you're looking at this game as, hey, let's beat Detroit, right? Detroit's looking at this game that they can win. They can win this game. So let's pay attention to how they throw the ball, how they're doing, because they've invested at that position.
So I'm pulling up Jalen Hurts' numbers here. It wasn't at the tip of my tongue, but he went 8-7 as a starter last year. Completed 61%, a tick over 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 9 picks. But where you're obviously going to try to unleash him as a runner, he had 784 yards and 10 touchdowns. So it's a different offense with him than it would be with Minshew. There is a threat. It's a different way to appreciate a quarterback when you've got 1,000-yard threat. It's a head that defenses have to account for. They're
no question.
That matters. That's why Lamar Jackson is so valuable.
I'm saying they're going to give him full opportunity, and they should give him every opportunity. I saw enough flaws in the passing game that it just something I thought about. But like I said, they're invested. That receiving group is.
They went all out. They went all out around Hurts. So it's going to be do or die for him this season, and that's a great prediction. I like it. Do you have one more?
Right. We'll see. That's a fun one. Do you have any off the wall? Anything fun?
I should have went a little more off the wall than you. It's mine are very, very much on the wall, or
mine are out there. I can get creative.
I like Tua Tagovailoa. I think that Tua is going to throw for well over 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns.
Don't give me the stats. Give me the outcome for the Dolphins, like with Tua this year. What do you see for them?
They make the playoffs and they win a playoff game with Tua.
I like
being a reason why.
That's how yes. That's how I would judge that by you, like saying that. Like
I just think that
they got their guy.
The offense is perfect for him. It really is. When you look at what they want to do with Mike McDaniel, and they didn't show a lot in the exhibition games. So we're kind of going off of what players are saying, what we've seen in San Francisco.
Right.
But I think that Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Mike Gesicki, it sounds like him and the team aren't really seeing eye to eye right now, but he's still around this year.
Yeah.
He's not going to block. I think he's just not going to do a lot of blocking, but he's a hell of a receiver. But you've got all of this speed, and it can be used in so many different ways pre-snap, so many different ways post-snap, on crossing routes, on jet sweeps.
There's no doubt.
And it plays to what Tua does well. He's incredible with ball fakes. He's incredible with just ball placement.
Yeah.
Where you look at how Tom Brady has extended his career. It's the short stuff underneath with the nose of the ball tilted down exactly where it needs to be, in stride. Guys aren't reaching behind him, and it's not slowing them down. Quick story. It'll be in Blood and Guts. I gotta do a better, gotta do a better job weaving these stories in, to get people to buy the book.
You did all the work. You did the work.
It just came to mind. But the Tony Gonzalez chapter, I hung out with Tony Gonzalez for about like 4.5 hours. It was amazing. I think there's stories he shared that I cannot repeat on this podcast because I really want people to buy the book, but he shares one untold story that is going to definitely open people's eyes. I could not believe what happened when he was a Falcon. But this is at the end of his career. The full story's in the book, so please purchase it. If you subscribe, go to golongtd.com, hit the link, and you can get it 30% off and get a signed book plate. And that deal runs for another 10 days, I believe. But Tony Gonzalez was done playing, and Tom Brady tried to convince him to keep playing. And Tom Brady basically convinced him to come to a workout. And Tony Gonzalez was there. Tom Brady had his whole crew, the nutritionist, Tom House, Alex Guerrero, everybody's there. Receiver, Tony Gonzalez thought they were just going to be throwing the ball around. He knows it's going to be all serious. And he said, Tom Brady at one point apologized to him about like a throw and said, I needed to get that ball out in front of you like another, whatever it was, few inches at this velocity because it equates to this much more yak. I mean, that's the part of the game that we don't really appreciate enough. And we kind of take for granted just that ability for a receiver to catch the ball in stride. Think of track, like a 4x1, when you're passing the baton to somebody. If you're able to just kind of do it seamlessly as you're receiving the baton and you're in stride, you're going to win that race. In football, if you're a receiver and you're able to just stay in stride, you're Tyreek Hill, see ya, good night. And so it's just a perfect storm for what Tua does well. He doesn't have a super strong arm. It's going to be strong enough for him to take advantage of the play action game.
I'm so tired of that.
But I don't think it matters that much with what they want to do. I think they're gonna score a ton week in and week out.
His issue for me, as we talked about before, it's the decision making in critical situations was really bad. But that could have been a result of the disconnect that was going on with the coaching staff. And that can change. So his physical ability is fine. I'm not worried about him physically.
I totally agree. And he's young enough to repair that confidence. I think it was in a bad place last year with a head coach who didn't really want him. The supporting cast wasn't that great. And the line has to hold up. Terran Armstead needs to stay healthy. That's a big if. But
you have to. He is going to have to. He's going to have to make the plays in the fourth quarter and hit the deep. When you have a chance to hit the deep balls with these guys, you better hit them. I mean, you better be on point down the field. Not saying he can't do it. Just we haven't seen it a lot. They have not done it a lot.
Completely.
But anyway, I like that. I like that with Tua.
And I suppose if I was going to give you one more here, Jim, and this is probably going to come back to, bite us in the ass because people have said it year in, year out, and they're wrong. I think New England's going to be not good this year. I can't quite say bad.
I love it.
I can't get myself to say New England will be a terrible football team, but I think all of the signs are there for the Patriots to take a substantial step backwards, and they might reach a point where they start thinking about like 2023, and they're going to have to rethink, coaches on offense, rethink personnel, how they're going to use their money. It just seems like Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, that's your game plan for developing Mac Jones out of Josh McDaniels. it just reeks of narcissism. Like we're smarter than everybody else. And the way they've kind of just talked down to anybody even questioning this all summer. It's very Patriots. I mean, that's why I say like they'll probably go out and just prove everybody wrong. Like Mac Jones will be a star, right? But I don't even know. Like, look at he's throwing to Devontae Parker. I guess that's a fun acquisition. It's not really on par with everything else going on in the AFC.
I think you summed it up perfectly. Basically, if Mac Jones is for real, they will compete. If he's what I put him in my guys, I think are going to be some of the most disappointing players.
We both did. Yeah.
I don't see him. I don't see it with Mac Jones. So I agree with what you're saying. Because if he's not the answer quarterback, they're not winning. They're not winning.
I guess this is what the Patriots would argue is they just adapt and evolved through the course of a season better than anybody. I mean, they started last season, 2-4, and they had some rough losses. They should have beat Tampa Bay. If Jonathan Jones doesn't get hurt and Justin Bethel doesn't come in for that one play in that one moment where Tom Brady saw it, attacked it, got a first down, kicked a field goal, Belichick beats Tom Brady in Foxborough. I mean, that happens. So, and then they figured things out, but then it was so weird, right? Like they win the wind game in Buffalo, and Sean McDermott's flustered in the press conference when he's asked about Belichick. The offensive coaches aren't happy with what he's saying about things, and things are bad. And then all of a sudden, the Patriots go south. The Bills figure stuff out. That second half against Tampa Bay finished strong. And the Bills absolutely just exterminate the Patriots those two games. I mean, it was embarrassing. Like, the Patriots. What's Bill Belichick thinking watching that game last night? Like, did he really do everything he needed to do in the offseason to close the gap defense? They lost J.C. Jackson, right? Who he didn't really do that great against Stephon Diggs anyways. But what did they do different? Like, what's different about this team that closed the gap with Buffalo? I don't see anything. I think in Miami beat them twice last year.
Yeah, I can't argue that. I'm with you on that. I don't see it with the Patriots either.
Thirdly, Joe Flacco will be the MVP. No, I'm just kidding. No.
What about, does he beat Baltimore though?
No. Oh my God, that's going to be ugly. I mean, didn't Lamar Jackson score like 5-6 touchdowns the last time they played? I don't see that ending well. I don't see that ending well for the Jets. But yeah, if anybody else out there has something crazy, let us know. We have everything up there. Go along TD. So my 5 breakthrough players, I have Romeo Doubs, Green Bay, Tua, Cameron Dantzler in Minnesota. I think post Zimmer.
That's a good one. That's a good call by you. He did play. That's a good one.
Ben Lieber made a few good points in that story on Dantzler. So then in Cortland Sutton, I love him with Russell Wilson. We know how Russell likes, dialing into one receiver. I just think Sutton's just loaded with talent.
Great point. That's a great point though. He does, especially anybody for these deep balls, because he throws that pretty lob.
He does. And then James Cook was my other one. So we'll see how that pans out. But I got to find the tweet. I think our buddy Joe DiBiase over at GR did the research. He's always good for this, but let me see if I can find it. So just to justify my James Cook breakthrough.
Well, I'm trying to find.
Apparently, there's been. Oh yeah. So he says that James Cook joins this list of running backs who have fumbled in their first career game. So a fumble in your first game. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Kareem Hunt, Le'Veon Bell, Ray Rice, Steven Jackson, LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Alexander, Edgerrin James, Jerome Bettis. Yeah. So to your point on the speed of the game being different, that's
all. It was
just like going JV to varsity.
It doesn't mean anything other than just look at the two guys on your team. Look how they played last night. Yeah. That's all.
I remember going JV to varsity, point guarding high school basketball. Man, that's
changed things for you.
I had about 20 turnovers that first game, I think. It was pretty rough. So, tomato, right? About the same thing.
I don't believe that. 20.
It was in 10th grade. I was pretty young, but I figured it out. You adjusted the speed. All right. Anything else, Jim? There was a note here. Not that anybody really gives a shit. I wanted to pick up our Starbucks conversation. Remember what happened there a few weeks back?
Yes.
So basically, you know, the
Let's hear it.
doors were told to open at 5, and then they said no, it's 5:30, and 5:35 they let me in pure disgust and rage, and they weren't happy about it. Well, I don't know if she listens to the podcast, but I went there a few times since, and she was very friendly. The woman, she might be the manager for all I know. I'm not sure. But then she did come up to me as I was working there off Camp Road, and she said that they're understaffed, and that oh yeah, so this was about 7:30 a.m. when I was working that day. She said they're understaffed. She wanted to let me know that nobody's allowed to just hang out at Starbucks anymore. They're only going to be completely drive-through. They got a ton of seating in there. I promise I have a point, so hang with me. There's a ton of seating in there, and they've got 6 or 7 workers there. And she said they're understaffed, and they can't accommodate people who want to hang out there. So there's part of me that's like, well, is she one of our listeners? Did she? And I had my Go Along shirt on. Is she just giving me a bunch of? But she was very friendly about it. Maybe she's being, patronizing, condescending, and just trying to, shag my ass out of there. Could be. But then I'm looking around. The tables are empty. Nobody else is really in there. And I wasn't mad, Jim. I was sad. I got very sad because think about it. This says so much about society. Why was Starbucks founded? As a coffee house chain. So people can just hang out and congregate and drink a little coffee. Face-to-face interaction, right? Face-to-face interaction. And I'm looking around, I'm like, people just don't do that much anymore. They don't just sit down and converse face-to-face. They don't. They're always on the go. Our society is so rushed, so hurried, so obsessed with getting to the next thing that, yeah, that drive-through, it's constantly going and going and going, and people are constantly picking stuff up, and everybody's faces are just buried in cell phones. And those 6 workers, you look, they actually were busy as hell. They weren't just like hanging around, just fiddling around on their phones. They were trying to keep up with this all. And I just got sad because it's like the whole reason Starbucks was really founded, right, was, hang out with your friends. This is a place where you can get to know each other, talk about your day, talk about life. And yet we've gotten so screen obsessed, so busy as a society that I think that 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, you're just going to see coffee shops in general just kind of go downhill, or just face-to-face interactions will kind of continue going downhill. It was sad to see. So I'm not even mad at her. I'm not mad at the manager. If she made that all up and she just wanted to ban me for life, that's another thing. But I think she was being honest, and it's depressing.
That depresses me because I like coffee shops, and I always had a vision of. I always was jealous of call them the veteran crew. Every coffee shop has them, right? Mm-hmm. Those guys, those retired guys in their 70s, 80s, go there every morning. Like I always pictured myself there. We're talking about the bets we lost the night before.
Yeah.
Drink. I can't believe I lost that. Who you got tonight? I just picture those. That's how I'd like to be retired someday.
Yeah.
But you're right.
I'm probably overestimating it.
Shops.
Spot Coffee, when I worked there, that place is always banging. I mean, there's just people in there, are tons of people in there. So maybe it's a moot point, but Starbucks is the company that revolutionized the concept of that. Like, you can hang out here over a cup of coffee. That it just got me thinking. One more thing. Our buddy Dan Murphy, loyal listener, loyal reader, he wanted me to bring this up to you. I don't have it right in front of me, so I'm paraphrasing Dan, but so Andrew Filipponi, hilarious follow on Twitter, big in Pittsburgh radio. We actually went to Syracuse together, played basketball against each other in Media Cup. He was a good player for WAER. When I was at the Daily Orange, we'd play at the Dome once a year.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
But he was in the Buffalo market, I believe, for a little. Now in Pittsburgh, his big thing is like, he's banging the table hard for Kenny Pickett. He thinks Kenny Pickett is just going to be an absolute stud. And all right, you know what? I do have to find the exact bet here. So
are we doing, is Mason Rudolph the EJ Manuel? He had no
There's
chance.
That too. Yeah.
I think you said that, right? Didn't you put that out there?
It was it's very similar how like
it really is. He had no chance.
All right, I got to find this. So he goes, this is Andrew. He tweeted yesterday, there is no way, in all caps, the Browns finish ahead of the Steelers. If they do, I will let someone kick me in the nuts in a public place as hard as they can for a good cause. So Dan asked, he's like, could you like really in good conscience, like just go ahead and kick somebody else in the groin? Like say if you had, like, is there somebody you dislike enough to just unload a kick to the nuts?
It doesn't do it for me. It doesn't do it for me.
Right?
Doesn't do it for me. Yeah.
I can't think of my worst enemies.
No interest in that. Yeah. No interest.
You know, even some of these old fans that came out of the woodworks, you know, that said a few things back with a certain Bleacher Report Packers story. I don't wish ill upon anybody. I don't block anybody on Twitter. It's just there's nobody I dislike enough to actually kick him in the nuts.
No, I'm good on that too.
Well, there's your answer, Dan. Sorry it wasn't more colorful. Are you sure, Jim? There's nobody in the NFL? Do you want to maybe backhand?
No, I really don't. It doesn't do anything.
That's going to do it. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We'll be back. The games are Sunday. You know, I think once we get into the season, maybe we'll predict a few games. We'll look ahead a little, but we wanted to more so focus on the season with this app. It's going to be fun. Be on the lookout for those 2 episodes each Monday morning and see when we're going to be at Fatty's and come hang out with us if you're in Western New York. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.